All right, guys, here we're doing horizontal and vertical lines. We're trying to figure out, how do we graph them? How do they relate to equations? How do they relate to slope? All these kinds of things. So you're going to do 7 problems here in Khan Academy. What I'll do is I'll finish off these 3 problems, and then I'll do some more on after that. Horizontal and vertical lines. So let me go ahead and get started here. What is the slope of the line y equals 8? So if you were to graph this, you'd have y equals 8. On the y-axis, you'd go up to 8. Let's just say this is 8. And you'd have this horizontal line that goes through 8. All right. That's what the graph of y equals 8 is. And on another example, when we have to graph this, I'll talk more about how to graph it. But up here at y equals 8, you have this horizontal line. They want to know what is the slope. The way I interpret this is I just choose 2 random points. Like, let's just say this is x is 1. Let's go over to x is 3. All right, this is 2, 3. If I have these 2 points, right? So I have 1, 8, and I have 3, 8. If I was to look at the change in y over the change in x, those are triangle y and triangle x. Change in y over change in x for those 2 points. Going from this point to that point, my x is increasing by 2. So my change in x on the denominator is 2. My change in y, it goes from 8 to 8. My y value does not change. So we end up with a change in y of 0. Notice how it's rising 0. It's rising 0, running 1. Rising 0, running 1. Rising 0, running 1. We end up with this 0 over whatever number, depends on which point you chose. 0 divided by anything is 0. So the slope of a horizontal line is always 0. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. This says, what is the equation of the line? All right. A variety of ways to think about this, but basically that's a horizontal line. Is it going to be y equals 4, or is it going to be x equals 4? That's usually the question I get from students. They know it's one of them. How do I know which one it is, Mr. Williams? What I'd ask you is, what's the value of this point? Well, that's going to be -8, 4. Cool. What's the value, or not value, but what's the coordinate of this point? Well, that's going to be 3, 4. What do they have in common? The 4. What location is the 4 in? Is it the x or the y? And it's in the y location. For any of these, any point on that blue line, the y value will always be 4. So it's y equals 4. Just choose a couple points, label the coordinate, and you'll see a pattern of what is consistent and what's constantly the same. You'll figure that out that way. Let's go ahead and clear this off. It says, what is the slope of the line? So now we have one that's going vertically. So let's just choose a point, I don't know, here and here. It doesn't really matter which point you choose. Again, we're going to look at our change in y over our change in x, and we're going to figure out what the slope is. From -4 to -1, our y value increases by 3. All right, the change in y from here to here, all right, y increases by 3. Meanwhile, the x value is locked in at 5, right? We're not going left or right. To go from one point to another, you don't go to the left or the right, you're just going up and down. So there is no change in x. The change in x is 0. You cannot divide by 0. It is impossible to divide by 0. Therefore, our answer is this one down here on the bottom. It is undefined. All right. So you can summarize a rule for this, to memorize, but basically one of them is going to have undefined slope. One of them is going to have a slope of 0. It's up to you to figure out which one's which. Let's go ahead and do a couple more problems here. So what I'll do is exit out, log back in, and I'll try to do some more here to help you out. What is the equation of the horizontal line through -7, -3? Me, I'm a sketcher. I like to just sketch things. -7, -3, it's right here, and it's a horizontal line, so it's going kind of like this, right? We want to know what's the equation of that line. Same kind of idea. Well, we know this is -7, -3. Choose some other points that's on the horizontal line. This would be, I don't know, 5, -3. If I chose some more, this would be 0, -3, -2, -3. The -3 is the consistent thing. That's the thing that stays the same. It's always going to be -3 on that horizontal line, which means it's y equals -3. Here's the next one. It says graph x equals -1. This is the first time we had a graph one. The way I look at this is I look at like a table. All right, well, x is -1. Here's my xy table. For if y is 3, x is -1. If y is 5, x is -1. If y is 0, x is -1. If y is whatever you want it to be, 2, x is -1. X is always -1. It doesn't matter what your y value is, x is -1. Just look at your points over here in your table and plot 2 of them, -1, 3, and -1, 5. Boom, it's a vertical line. All of these values on the vertical line have a value, or all the x values have, or x equals -1 on that line. Let's do a couple more and then we'll call it good. Graph y equals 3. Same kind of thing, create an xy table. X, y. Doesn't matter what x is. 1, y is 3. X is 0, y is 3. X is -2, y is 3. X is 5, y is 3. Doesn't matter what your x value is, your y value is always equal to 3. Therefore, you can create a quick table, get a couple points, plot some of them here. We got 1, 3. We got 0, 3. I'll do the 5, 3. 5, 3. It's going to be that horizontal line there at y equals 3. All right. Last one here, and then we're going to move on, and I'll let you guys learn from this video. I think it's something that you just kind of have to play with and mess around with the individual problem you have, and eventually it all clicks and makes sense for you. What is the slope of the line x equals -1? I would draw a quick sketch. -1 on the x value. So we're talking about this guy right here. It's a vertical line. What is the slope? Change in y over change in x. The y value is increasing. Like, let's just say we went from here to here. It's going up by 1. But the x value does not change. So you have a 0 in the denominator, which means our answer is going to be undefined, right? Looking at this point to this point, you'd go up 1. So our change in y is 1, but you're not going left or right at all. You're staying on the same x value. Undefined would be the answer. All right. I hope this helped. I know that, I could do 1,000 examples, but it may not help you with this specific problem that you're on. My suggestions are, if you aren't given a graph, sketch a graph. If you aren't given a table, maybe sketch a table. Think about different models that are used to represent mathematics and incorporate them into your brainstorming, and then use that to try to help you answer the question. All right. That's all, folks. You guys have a great day, and keep fighting.